We love you, Jess.
Okay, here we go. We're live. Welcome, Jess, and welcome everybody to Witch Bitch. Today, we're going to be, well, first of all, Jess has never been on the show, so we always start these episodes with asking about your awakening story. But before I ask you that, I just wanted to introduce you a little bit to our audience because Jess is one of my greatest friends of all time. Um, we met in Byron, we were tent neighbors, and we really, like, I don't know, we just kind of clicked straight away. I feel like after the first time we met, it was just from there we were just really good friends, and then we just hung out a lot. And yeah, so we've shared some good Byron stories together, which we're probably going to get into. But first of all, what was your awakening story, or what is your awakening story? How did you get into spirituality, or like how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. I feel like I've always been a bit curious of that. Like, I was known in my friendship group at school as that crystal, like, gave all my friends crystals for, like, their Christmas presents. And it
Yeah.
was a bit of like an ongoing joke, but I was sort of like interested in it. I had like some ideas around it, and that was very, very minimal spirituality, not really like getting into it, just sort of like the first few like little things. And then so I've always just sort of like dabbled in it, but not really gotten that serious into it. And then I actually met my current partner now. I met Joe, and sort of almost brought me into it even more. So he was, um, you know, he would talk a lot about meditation and just all these other different things that I would start sort of getting into. And I've almost like gotten more into spirituality than he is in now. So I've just sort of started learning more and more as the years have gone on. But something that like my awakening story is kind of just me opening up and like seeing the world very, very differently, which happened around when I first met him. I'm a registered nurse. I had just finished uni, I think, a year before, and I was sort of getting into my graduate program. I had just received that, and at the same time, I'd sort of learnt a few different things about the vaccine, and that I was just not ready to get it. I didn't want to get it, and that was just my choice, that I just didn't really feel comfortable and ready to do that. And then from then on, nurse at that kind of point was starting to get really difficult to find. Um, so I went through that whole process. I got a graduate year. I was getting my career undergo. I, funnily enough, got a graduate position doing COVID vaccines, which was very ironic. But that also opened me what was happening. And through that, I just sort of I had to leave that job, which was like my career starter. That's what you dream of when, as your registered nurse, when you first get started, is getting that graduate position in the hospital. And it was in the Royal Brisbane Hospital in Brisbane, which is like one of our main hospitals. And it's just such a big deal. And then I unfortunately didn't. I had to leave that after about 2 months because the mandate started coming in. I also then got another job in Mount Isa doing fly in, fly out nursing, and that was amazing because fly in, fly out nursing, you earn a lot of money, which was going to be nice. And then after 4 days, I had to leave that one as well. And it was just sort of all these like little things that kept like pushing you down. And it just opened my eyes a lot to just
Mm.
how different things worked and how social media was and how the news and all that information got spread. There was lots of just things that I just started to see. Um, and then you just really had to fall back on the universe too in that moment. You had to just trust that what was happening was supposed to be and was your path and is going to lead to greater things. And what I always say is a blessing in disguise, because even though that was a really shitty situation for me, it and I was lucky. Like, I'm young. It was by no like means hard for me in terms of money. Like, I didn't get to save. I went through all my savings, but I'm young. Like, I don't have a family. I don't have a house that I need to pay for. I had a partner who was really supportive and helped me out. So I was really lucky. But, you know, I went through all that really difficult stage, and then I got to travel. I moved to Gladstone, and then I moved to Byron, and then I met Juliet and you as well, Claudia, and Sydney.
You got to tell us who this is now.
Yeah, so this is
He's
Neo.
like, I will not be ignored.
He's my dog, my partner's dog. He's very busy in the morning, so he will be just trying to chew my hand.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, and then I got to meet Julia and my other beautiful friend that I met in Gladstone, Kaya, who Juliet and I are really, really close with. And I just never would have been able to do any of this stuff. And then all the other things that have led to it, you know, like I'm moving up to Mackay in a week, and then we've just got lots of plans for traveling, and that would just have never have happened if none of this happened. And I sort of did open my eyes and go, I want a different thing. I don't want to just work as a registered nurse in the hospital system, you know.
Yeah. it shows that, like, when you I think what your journey just shows people is that when you choose sovereignty and what's right for you, that's when you're led on the most amazing path, you know, the highest potential journey. Because I know for me, when the whole vaccine mandate came out, I was also very scared because similarly to you, it was like my whole future became unclear because we were both at similar stages. I mean, you were a lot further on, and I mean, you were going into a career which I can imagine would be very scared. Whereas I didn't even know what I wanted, and it felt like now my choices were even more narrow than like they could have ever have been. And yeah, there was a lot of questions as to whether or not I would ever be able to travel. You know, the media made this seem like it was forever, not just, not just for the next however many years. I really did think this was gonna, well, it still is around today, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was going to be
worse.
a lot worse and a lot more strenuous to get through life and do the things that I want. But it just shows when you trust and you just have faith in yourself and let go to the universe, that things kind of make their way, like they just show themselves to you, and you just follow it, and you end up in places you never would have expected. Because I can imagine that getting your dream job of being a graduate at one of the best hospitals in Queensland to then that being taken away to then a fly in, fly out job, which is an amazing opportunity, and only having that for 3 days before, having to give that up too. But there's no breaking, because I remember we were having this conversation like at another time, and you were telling me how when they like brought up with the fly in fly out job, they brought up the mandate and like, hey, we need to see your passport, and you were like, I don't have one, and then they said, well, we can get it sorted out. It's totally fine. We can get you the jab, and you were like, no, I'm
No.
not getting it.
Mhm.
And to say that so strongly is so difficult. I think especially for younger people because we aren't fully grown, we aren't fully developed, we don't have the
You don't have the Karen muscle.
yeah yeah we don't yeah we it's really hard for our generation to stand in our power, maybe because we just haven't been out in the world that long, or I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but
Well, we're
it's
just planning what we
yeah
want as well. We don't know, like, I didn't know that that's what I wanted. Like, I was just, this is something that I believed in, and I was lucky that, yeah, my partner was so great and supportive, and he gave me so much information, and like held me in those times that was like really difficult, because when I got, taken off that fly in, fly out after 4 days, I was sitting there going like, maybe I should just get it. Like, what am I gonna do? I had no job to come home to. I didn't have anything. Like, what was I gonna do? I had a rental. So I think everyone's just learning what they wanted to do.
yeah
Like, everyone's just figuring it out.
yeah
Yeah.
exactly. And I think you know it's one thing to know what you want, but then it's another thing to know what you want and act accordingly.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that I know, so many people that got it because they didn't want it, but it was that same thing where if you didn't get it, you would lose your job, or if you didn't get it, something there would be consequences of that action, and
Friends and family played a big part in that too.
yeah,
Struggled with that.
yeah, and
Yeah, we got pressure from people who were like, you like, we had people say to us, you're no longer welcome
Yeah.
in the house if you're not, things like that.
yeah,
Or other people that were like, I'm being pressured by my family and telling me if I don't get it, then I can't see the grandkids, or I can't see the nieces and nephews,
or
or
I can't see my dying grandparents in in
yeah,
aged care.
yeah,
And, I think this is where we get into when you see this in society, you know that it's no longer about a vaccine, that it's about something much more. But
well, it's fear, isn't it? Because
yeah,
that they're putting their faith, this is the thing, they will put people, family members and friends and things like that, were putting their faith in a medicine that they were being told would protect them, and making it like the consequence of that is saying, if you're not vaccinated, you're not protected,
yeah,
and so you're going to be bringing the big bad monster into our house.
Yeah.
So really it was fear that
yeah,
was driving all of those decisions,
Mm.
and the fear was really coming from not being informed.
Yeah.
And that's why your story is so interesting to me, because when you informed yourself, and plus with your background in nursing and
Yeah.
the medical industry, and you had a partner who was helping you find information and things like that, you were better equipped to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
weren't acting from that fearful place.
yeah,
You were
Right.
acting from a place of, from my perspective and the information that I've
Yeah.
given myself and what I've researched, I feel that it's better if I don't have it,
yeah,
which is 100% your choice.
Yeah.
And if you do your research and you decide, well, this is for me, I want to have it, that's 100% that person's choice.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
You
like,
know?
I work in the disability industry at the moment, and that's like a lot of them, like, it makes sense for them. That is their informed decision, and it's very scary for a lot of them. They don't have any immune system whatsoever, or I have a little man that I look after, and he, his lungs are just not good, and any cold he gets, it's an issue. So, like, it is very personal, And it
Yeah.
should just be a personal decision. It should
Yes.
never be influenced by anything else other than your own, needs and
And
Yeah.
situation.
yeah,
Yeah. And this was the issue that we were having, was the pressure
yeah,
coming from all sides to do something in a way that wasn't informed,
Yeah.
mm,
because you didn't have time to be informed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that we've spoken to on and off the show actually,
mm,
have said, oh, well, I just did it because I needed to keep my job, or
mm,
I didn't do it because it just didn't sit well with my spiritual, ideologies, or whatever it is.
yeah,
Everybody has their own reasons and personal reasons, and that's why up until recently your medical records and your medical situation was completely private,
mm, yeah,
and you didn't have to talk about your medical choices with the greater community and with your family
no,
and friends.
yeah,
You know?
Yeah, and I think, what I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that when COVID first, like the vaccines started rolling out, you were actually working at a clinic, a vaccination clinic.
yeah,
How was that for you? Because I can imagine it would have been very like juxtaposing,
yeah,
because you're not vaccinated and you're dealing with people that probably also don't want to be vaccinated or do want to be vaccinated, however they feel. Like, what was that like for you?
oh, that was a really rough decision to even keep, like, to actually take the job,
Yeah.
Mm.
because for me it was like, this is something I really don't believe is, for me anyways, personally, not for everyone, but I just believed it wasn't a safe thing to put into a lot of people's bodies. And so I was like, I'm giving that to people now. Like, I'm gonna have to, but I talked, and they were saying, one person, if you're not doing it, someone else will be doing it, and this is something you can start, but start your career with. So I did
Mm.
it, and it was. I'm glad I did it because it was so eye opening, and it was really difficult. But I just made it my point to give more information than what they had.
Yeah, right.
So
Mm,
a lot of, like, obviously now we know that myocarditis is a quite a severe side effect of the vaccines, and that wasn't even
Yeah.
told to a lot of people at the beginning. And I actually found out from my sources that weren't credible, not government sources, of information first before I found out through our government giving it directly to the nurses giving the vaccine. So
Yeah,
it
right.
was,
That's interesting.
we were just finding it out. I was finding things out earlier anyway. So I just made it my point to inform people and also be super understanding,
Yeah.
because I can understand why people want to get it and why they are getting it, because I was there. Like, before I sort of talked to Jack a lot, I actually had I was booked to go get it. Like, I was the first one to put my hand up and go, yeah, let's, like, get it, because obviously I'm a, I'm a caring person. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I'm being safe with the people that I'm looking after, and that's what they made you feel like.
Hmm.
Um, but then, yeah, I found out and I cancelled that. So it's being understanding, and, like, there you saw a lot of people there that were coming in, like lots of police officers and firefighters and nurses and pregnant women. A lot of those people were the first people sort of forced to get the vaccine, um, or mandated. And a lot of them were coming in not wanting to get it, but they just had families and mortgages and bills to pay, that
yeah.
just for them it wasn't like, they've worked in this career their whole, for years and years, and that's just not a choice for them. A lot of people just didn't have that flexibility. So it just made me more understanding too of other people's
Yeah.
Yeah.
perspectives, also then you got to see the other side of like the judgment that people held.
Yeah.
But it was funny, like people would always ask me, people would come up and they'd go to get vaccinated and they'd just ask, oh, what have you got, which one did you have? And I was like, oh, none of them.
Oh, were you being brave? Like that's because now we look back and we think, wow, that's so brave of you to just say it out like that. Like, or
Oh,
were you not aware that you were the were you aware or were you not aware that you were
oh no,
the
it was like nerve wracking and I didn't know
yeah,
what to say. Like that was something I thought about a lot, but I made it a nice way. Like I knew I was never really going to get it unless like there was information that showed me that it is like a good day, like it helped people out and all that sort of stuff. But it was just that I just worded it in a way that was
yeah,
like, oh, I'm just sort of waiting a little bit. I just thought I would
yeah.
see how it went first, and then I would get it when I need to, or I
Smart
wanted.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously I don't want to make them freak out either. Like they've
Yes.
made this decision, and I'm not there to like, dictate what they do. So I'm just going to support them in what they've chosen. So yeah, but it was scary, and obviously talking to all the other known nurses around me and all the head nurses and people that run the like unit, that was really scary, a really really scary thing to do because I know what they believed and what they wanted, and it was, they. But I did actually have to say, all of the nurses that I dealt with, the senior nurses, were really really lovely. They
Yeah.
dealt with it really nicely. They understood how upset I was, and it was a really big deal for me, and they were very respectful, and I have to say that that was a really amazing experience in terms of that, because I actually have had no experience where any nurses have been towards me that were in like higher positions, that none of them have been disrespectful or rude, or pushing what they believed onto me.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
I must admit, like with this debate or however you want to say it, but like this, I think it's a lot better now that more information is coming out to the public, because the damage has been done. But before, when the damage was actively being done, during this time where the mandates were really strong and things were very uncertain, a lot of the arguing was coming from, like, you saw it on trains. I know I had actual people come up to me on trains and public transport. It was on Facebook. A lot of the arguments were not in many of these professional
Professional.
settings.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think one thing about the the nurses is that you know through my experience so far of being around hospitals and being in the medical industry, the nurses are the really nice ones a lot of the time. Like, I've never had a negative experience with a nurse. The experience or the judgment is from like the receptionist or
Yeah.
something. Like, it's never from the
Yes.
actual doctors
Yes.
or things like that. And I think that's, I wonder why that is, because it's really weird that it's coming from the people that actually it doesn't hugely affect. Like,
I think
that's
it comes from fear. I
yeah,
think it's still coming from the fear. I think that the receptionist is doing this finger wagging, judgmental kind of thing, this teachery, you should be wearing a mask and you should be doing this and that sort of thing from a place of fear.
yeah,
And they're not fully informed for
yeah.
whatever reason. I'm not saying that
Well,
sometimes it's just maybe they're too busy or they're just not interested or whatever, and they think, well, this is the way I'm going to deal with it. Oh, she's
oh
gone.
no, she got disconnected.
Can we bring her back?
Yeah, I'll see if anything. I'll text her now.
Yeah, hang on, folks. We're going to try and get her back now.
Maybe her phone died.
Yeah, or it could have been her internet connection. That's another thing. Hopefully she's going to get a cord to plug it in.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah, we're on our own, Juliet.
Yeah. I think her phone battery died. So, how do we entertain the people? We should get up and dance.
I'll do a belly dance.
Please. Save me, guys.
Shake my booty.
I cannot believe you just said that.
You're embarrassed, Juliet.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
You've never said that in your life. Yeah,
Her phone's dead.
Yeah, phone's dead.
Yep. Oh, here she. Oh,
No.
I was just getting excited.
What should we talk about? Oh, overheated.
Oh, her phone overheated. Here she is.
Hello.
Hey, she's back.
Don't overheat it.
Oh, we knew there was something. We're too powerful for technology.
Yeah. No, it's the windowsill and the sun is like coming through.
Oh, yeah, right.
I just chucked my phone in the freezer real quick.
Yeah.
Well, it worked.
Yay.
Yeah, so
I was going to do a belly dance.
to entertain the people.
I said I'm going to shake my booty, and Juliet got all embarrassed.
My God.
I love the power of being a mother.
Save me, please.
It doesn't embarrass you.
Did I do it though?
Yeah, you did embarrass me. No, you didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
No. I knew you wouldn't, but it was not about that. It was the fact that you said it. Anyways, moving on.
Next.
Yes,
Oh,
what
I love my life.
What I wanted to mention was that so many nurses actually, I have so many stories that I've heard of nurses who somehow slithered on through in whatever way. Like, do you reckon I could tell the muscle suit?
What muscle suit?
The story?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well,
so
I'm going to tell it. I don't know
let's
this
do it.
person's
You
name.
have to now because
Yeah.
everyone's curious.
Well, okay, so I heard.
Oh, the muscle suit.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
twigged.
Yeah.
This
good
story
one.
shows the lengths people were willing to go.
So I heard.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know this person's name. It's just an unknown person.
Yeah, and
okay?
it's a story we heard. We don't even know if it's
we
true.
heard it from a person of a person. Anyways.
But we thought it was funny. That's why we want to share it.
Yeah, someone went in with a muscle suit, like a muscle on their arm, and they like wore a whole hijab thing, like they wore like a whole thing to
A
cover
disguise.
and then they got it.
But
And
into
the
the
muscle suit.
into the silicon, not into their
Yeah.
body. Yeah.
Smart.
Wow.
Commitment.
Yeah, that's commitment.
I wish
Well,
I could do that.
Not gonna lie, I thought of lots of different ways. There was things I could do.
Yeah, you could maybe just bring a wad of cash and be like, hey, just tip it down the sink.
Do it. Well,
I
I
think
was
I've
there
heard that story too.
system, so I was like, I was like, I could just put myself in. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't align very well with me.
Yes,
so-
Jess, that's the point, isn't it? Like that's
That's-
why we're here talking about this stuff
Yeah.
because you know, and why it's so important because what you just said, I think, is the overarching reason not to go down that road is that it doesn't align and you're doing something like you getting it didn't align with you, right? So then going the other way and doing something to fake fake it out or to rort the system or whatever, that's not aligning with you either. So, the situation is presented to you for you to make a decision, and if those decisions aren't aligning with you, then you are going against yourself,
Yeah.
which I think at the end of the day is the worst part of all of it.
Yeah, and it would, and I'm a terrible liar, so it would go down well. I would break.
Yeah, right. Which that's not, being a liar and being a fake and a cheat is not your path. Obviously,
not. And you did it, and that's like the point is to stand up for what you did it for and why you did it for, and it wasn't just for all those other reasons, but it's like, you were standing up to not like let this set precedent for other times where they can just give you something that's complete, like force you to give, have something that's completely untested. And
they didn't force anybody, did they? Like, it wasn't forced.
Coercion.
It was conversed.
It was highly influenced.
Yeah. So,
yeah. She's scratching her head. She's like,
So one thing that I really wanted to talk about was Byron and traveling and all that sort of thing, because there's so many funny stories that we have from that time, and I would say Byron was like one of the most eye-opening times in my life, because you're really slumming it with some like people, and some
the way you said that.
No,
some people.
To clarify, and I'm not sure if Juliet has like mentioned this before, but we hostel in and they happened to have a campground up the back, so we were not homeless. We were living
on the border.
We were on the border of homeless. We're still paying rent,
but it was just a little bit more on the
No, we were definitely not homeless. Mum would not ever be okay with that. But I think it
would be okay if you wanted to be homeless. I'd support that.
Okay.
I wouldn't like it, but I'd be like, okay, if that's your jam, go for it.
Well, I don't want to be homeless either.
Okay,
so.
there you go.
Good.
Yeah. But like where we were living, like you said, it was a hostel with a campsite at the back, and it was very much like a hippie commune. Is how I would
used to be a hippie commune. The arts factory used to be a hippie commune.
Yeah. So
built by these people, like the showers and the kitchens that we would use were built by these people from when they had a little community.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, so it kind of like stayed along those lines, but it was also still a hostel, so you had a lot of travelers, and you still had to pay a lot of money to live. Yeah. But through the experience of Byron, it was such an unconventional way of living, but it taught me a lot about life in a very like strange way. Like it showed me how little you needed at all.
To be happy.
Yeah, and it taught me the power of community, because there was never a moment where I felt unsafe. Like I knew I would be okay, because I would walk to and from the hostel into town, and I would pass at least 5 people that I knew, and at night I knew it would be okay coming back, because it's the only other people that are walking back are from there. Yeah. And even with strange people, it was just such a community, peaceful. I don't know if peaceful, but like peace,
Yeah, like nobody's going to harm you.
Yeah, no, even if like there was definitely weird people that maybe in a different circumstance might have tried something, I don't know, but in that place there was just something about the vibe that it held, that it was just so
Yeah.
safe,
Mm.
Yeah.
and it brought that up with everyone else. um and something in the spiritual community that I've learnt through living at this place and also going to the rainbow gathering.
With you.
Rainbow gathering. That was a time. Um,
I
it's
think we've spoken about the rainbow gathering.
Yeah, it would be interesting to talk about it again because we have both people.
Yeah, we've
Um,
got two perspectives.
yeah, and let me know if you agree with this, Jess. But like the spiritual community can also be just as toxic as maybe the
Yeah.
non-spiritual in a way.
Well,
Like,
we
You know,
do live in a world of polarity. So
yeah.
everywhere you go, there's going to be a dark side.
yeah. I think though you can get a little bit lost because spirituality is such like a beautiful thing. It's such an uplifting thing. I know when I first became spiritual, I never thought like you could find the same kind of demons in this
Right.
circle, but
Yeah, right. Well, you were schooled, weren't you?
I was. I mean, not that like there was anything as bad. Again, like very peaceful, very
Mhm.
loving, but there's still things hidden under the surface like, oh, so much. There
And
was so much.
spirituality is such a big thing too. It's
Mm.
not just like spirituality is so different for every single person. Like what they believe and what their spirituality is not always necessarily what you believe and what your spirituality, like what you feel it is. And
Yeah.
that's I think why they get so many different little pieces of it is because and you kind of sift through it, and the arts factory was perfect for that because there was so many people from
Yeah.
all over the place where
Yeah.
you could just sift through all these different ways of life and how they lived and thoughts and ways and perspectives of things, and you
Yeah.
could just go, oh yeah, like that's kind of something I could learn to get, like,
Yeah.
feel that connects with you the most.
Yeah, definitely. And it really opened my eyes as well to people like you who are young like me, but also have that very broad, open minded spiritual connection with life. Because in the city, not
No.
really a thing. Like, not unless you're going to, like, you can go to events like
Mm,
hippie spiritual events, and you can meet people that way, but it's still not the same. Like, it's very different because I've been to those events in Sydney, and it's still got the city vibration around it. And I think with that comes with a lot of like rigidness of meeting new people.
But also, too, you have to take into account that your vibe is different in the city as
Yeah,
mhm.
well.
my vibe is different in the
So
city.
your vibration is going to be attracting, not going to be attracting the type of people that you are truly going to
Yeah.
vibe with because you've got this defense mechanism up because we're in the city.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you're relaxed and you're in an environment that you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
like you were in Byron, you're going to have a deeper connection with certain people because you are more open to it
Yeah, definitely. And
because your
that's what
vibe's different.
Yeah. And that's what you find. Like that's what you
Mm,
find in places like this because in Gladstone you also
mm.
found um another beautiful friend, Kaya, and that was at a yoga class, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and I was about to mention that too because that's so true. And I've, in Brisbane where I've grown up my whole life, I've got like some beautiful, beautiful friends, and I love them dearly. But they're just people. I don't connect with them the same way I connect with Juliet and Kaya.
Mm.
Um, just not on the same, like with, they were a lot of friends that I met when I was in primary school, and you grow when you sort of become different people. And I started to get like feeling quite lonely in Brisbane in terms of just not having that I call them my people, or like
Yeah.
your people. They're just not my people. And so when I moved to Gladstone, that was something that I was really trying to, like, I was like, okay, like I'm open. I want to like meet people. I want to get a group. And it was so funny that it worked out. This gym that I was really like, I was wanting to go. My partner had like signed up for it, but they had no yoga classes, and I was really, really into yoga. And then I went to all these like private yoga classes, and they were beautiful. Like I loved them, but they never suited like my work schedule. And then I just happened to look back on the gym class, like, classes list, and I was debating whether I start spending the money and join up for the gym. And it popped up like there was a yoga class now, and I was like, amazing. And I went, and the room was just filled with oldies, like all the oldies love the classes there, but they are fit, like they're fitter than me, so they're crazy. They're really fit. And then there was just Kaya, who's like a little ball of like bright light energy, just
so like sunshine in a person.
Sunshine, yeah. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a young person. And it so happened, she told her story. She was from Canada. She moved to Australia for a little bit, and she'd just sort of come and found this job. And so I told myself, because we all went around and told a little bit about ourselves, and I said, I just moved to Gladstone too. And then from then on, the rest was history, as they say. And then that's how I met Juliet, is when I followed Kaya down to Byron, and she had met Juliet, and that's how I met her. So you find your people when you're in places that are, when you're open to it, and in these supportive places. And I'm similar. The city just does not fit. My vibrations are just not the same.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And it shows, because the 2 times I was not living in the city, I met like 2 of my closest friends. So it's how it works.
Yeah. It's really weird. Like being back here, it really, I try my best to be the most uplifted self, to be like my most aligned, happy, whatever. But I don't know what it is. I know there has to be something that causes this, whether it's
a scrambling.
I know everything comes from within, so I do know it's within myself, but it's caused it or triggered from something around me in the city, and I've got to figure it out, because it's so strange how closed off I feel. Like even just
you're
walking,
in protection mode.
Well, yeah, but it's just like I'm also not. Like I'm also just looking at books in the library, and I see someone and I'm like, oh, they seem cool, let's have a conversation, and then I just get too scared. But if I was in Byron, I would have been able to do that.
I think also it makes a difference too, that you do find when you go like from a small town to a city, is that they're the same. The people, they're just as closed off. You're not like walking down the street and going, oh, like, hey, like I love your shoes, or I love, it's just different. Like in Byron, you've got this, like all these, everyone's so free and just so open, welcoming. And I just think, there obviously will be people like that in the city too, but you've just got a big majority that are just a bit more closed off, and you get used to just like, finding your path. Like you're just walking down the street, you've got to go to this place, you're not really paying attention to anything else, what's going on. Like I'm just going to go to work, and you're sort of blocking off your energy to anyone else as well. And so I think that's probably what also makes it harder, is that everyone else is in the same state of like almost blocking off their energy and just not being open to making all these new connections. Easy as it is when you're in smaller towns where people just sort of are a little bit more open.
I think in the city, what I've found is it's a different setup. Like there's systems in place in the city because there's so many people. So there are certain pathways in which you can meet people. So like some people use school, for example. The parents will become friends, and then the kids become friends, or through sporting teams and events and things like that, or through dancing, extracurricular kind of like things. So it's like there's pathways in a city to meet people
Yeah.
that are like-minded or have similar mentality and lives to the ones that you cultivate for yourself. Because it's such a big
Yeah, you have
place,
to.
yeah, it has to be done like that. Whereas
Yeah.
in a small town, you can walk down the street and see somebody and meet, and like you going to this yoga class, like it was full of oldies, but you didn't resonate with those people because they weren't your age. The
Yeah.
one person that you resonated with was your age,
Yeah.
so there's imagine that in a big city.
Mm.
Like, where am I going to meet people like me?
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of gravitate towards. But I think that the problem is, it's not really a problem. I think what I'm seeing here, it's an observation more than anything, is that there are less places for young spiritual people. There are less avenues to meet people, like-minded young spiritual people in the city.
And I think also
That's why
maybe
Byron's the perfect place, because it's full of those
I
young
think
spiritual people.
yeah, and also just like any place, the like the ratio of spiritual people to non-spiritual in a city is a lot lower than in Byron. Like Byron is
Yes.
this
Everyone.
Yeah.
cool,
So
yeah,
many.
Because it attracts, that's why it's beautiful, because people who aren't finding that in their place, in the place where they live, they go to Byron to find that.
yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
And you learn so much there. There's so
Yeah.
many, and they have like little groups and classes and things like that too there, that you can even like further delve into all these beautiful like different things, and it's really quite amazing actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about Rainbow,
Yes.
because I think it's a funny one.
When I hear the two of you get together and talk about particularly Rainbow, oh, she's gone
Oh
again.
no, overheated. Oh no, it's
she's
back.
back.
Hey, phone call.
Okay.
We thought, oh no, it's overheated again. Yeah, so when I hear the two of you talking about it, I'm the audience. You guys are the people like entertaining me with your stories, because it's so funny.
I think I
Because
may
you
have.
kind of bounce off each other.
Yes, yes. This is going to be the
Wild.
most entertaining story I've told so far on this podcast. So I think I
It's
might.
like dystopian world or something.
I have mentioned I like just to. Yeah, I have mentioned
Yeah.
some like little bits of it, but I don't think I've ever told the whole story. So so I think I'll start and then you take over when I forget, or like, because I'll probably forget things, or whenever you have something to add, we'll just again bounce off each other. So how it started was we were both planning to leave Byron at the same time. It started off that we both knew that it was over for us and you had to be somewhere down in Melbourne, but I just knew that my time was coming to an end. But I didn't know, like, I didn't have a structure of like where to go or anything like that. I just knew it was time to leave and I didn't know where to go from there. And then it just kind of worked out that there was this thing called the Rainbow Gathering. And we didn't really, because something about the place that we lived, everyone, whenever there was an event, whenever there was like a party, whenever there was something going on, everyone somehow knew about it. It was just like Chinese whispers but everyone had the details, you know? And it was just like you would ask a person and they wouldn't know where to go, but they would be like, no, go to this person, I think they know the details. And so you would just kind of go through the line until you found someone.
Sounds like life.
And so we both decided that we were going to do it, right? And it was like, okay, we're going to do it. Now I've got to find the details. Like, where is this thing? We didn't know anything about it other than it was called the Rainbow Gathering. And I think from there you can kind of make some assumptions.
And actually, I had
Maybe that was your first mistake.
First mistake. We made assumptions, but also there was a lady at work that I was working with that she had been to, and she was from Israel, and she had been to a rainbow gathering before, but like a bigger one, because they happen all over the world, and like it was a bigger one, a more established one, and she was talking it up, and she was saying how she was like, oh, it's amazing, like they do this and they do that, and it's just beautiful. And I was like, oh, it's so exciting. I got so excited. I think that was also like, we made assumptions, but then I had this person telling me how amazing it was, and everyone wanted to go. Like, so many people were like, oh, let's go to the rainbow gathering, like that. Anyways.
Yeah. No, so right, Jess. Like everyone was so excited. And it was like really hyped up because it was this thing where not everyone could go because turns out it was like 3 hours away. So it was like 1 hour south and 2 hours east, like inland. So I found the coordinates, by the way. There was no address, there was coordinates, and I got it through an Instagram DM. So this guy that I asked, the only way he had the instructions was because someone sent him the Instagram DM, and so then he sent the Instagram DM to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I acquired the information, and I also gave it to Jess, and then we like, I think it was about a week later, we went on our way and we left our tent, well, my tent, we left my tent, and we packed all of our stuff, and we got in the car, and it was
up in that car too, by the way. that rolling it later.
So we went on our merry little way with the coordinates in our GPS, and we get about 1.5 hours, I would say, into the trip, maybe 2 hours, because we made a few stops, and we get on this dirt road, and we start driving down this dirt road, and I'm thinking, oh, we must already be there, you know, like we must already be like, you know, it can't be too far. And we looked at the map, and I remember it still was 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Just on this dirt road, and it was like a driveway.
Yeah. And the only reason we knew we were going the right place too is because eventually there was these little rainbow flags that would pop up along the road. And we're like, oh, we're nearly there. But it was so long. No cell service, like you didn't have any reception.
Yeah, and I was getting really worried because I saw that we were 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I was thinking, oh, there's no need to text mum because we're not there yet.
Right.
And then we get 1.5 hours away, and it cuts out. And so there was a few spots along the way, like when we were up high, that we had like maybe 1 or 2 bars. And so I would get Jess to stop.
Because you wanted me to know where you were.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Mum didn't know. And, Mum didn't know because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, Mum, here are the coordinates.
Yes,
this is where I am.
What the hell is going
We'll be gone for like 2 days, maybe. I don't know, 3 days. We'll see. But... And then Jess was texting her boyfriend, and we both like stopped in the middle of the dirt road when we had a bit of data. Yeah, and we kept on our way. And what was the first person that we saw when we got in?
Oh, so like, well, there was one guy who was just shirtless, wearing shorts, and it was pouring down rain too. And I have a full drive, luckily. But it was pouring down rain, and it was like dirt road, so muddy. And so he was just giving us a bit of information and telling us like, oh, you probably won't be able to get down all the way till there's like a 4-wheel drive car park, which is further down. So probably don't go down there today anyways.
Yeah.
And then anyways, we drive down and we go, thanks. And we like get ready to park at this 2-wheel drive this car park. And we get down, and I pulled up in front of a sign, we're reading it, and then this guy just walks out from like near a van, fully naked. And I was like, and he comes right up to the window, and he's like, hey, welcome to the Rainbow Gathering. And like, talking to us, and I was like, hi, hello. And I just, obviously, like, we just assumed that it wasn't like that, but obviously.
Yeah. I mean, we're hippies ourselves. We know how it rolls.
Rocked up, and you just have this naked man walking up to you. Anyways, very odd, and it was yeah. And then we parked, and then we had to figure out what we were going to do about sleeping the night, because we didn't want to go down this huge, because it was a really big steep hill to the next car park. We didn't really want to go down that, so we had to figure out what we were going to do because it was raining so much.
Yeah, we didn't know whether like to set up a tent to sleep in the car, because we did have a setup in the car, but it was kind of like not ideal.
No.
So we're like, do we just sleep in the car tonight? We also had to figure out like how we're going to cook food because it's raining and we've got like a cooker. And we end up like setting up the tarp in the rain.
In the rain. Or
it was
I don't have any poles either. So we like
we had to get sticks.
We just have rope and this tarp, and so we had to set this tarp like over the car and use like the one pole that we had to like stick up the other side.
Yeah.
And use the doors to like open the doors to help keep the tarp up so the water wouldn't pool. And we made it work. We got drenched. We made it work. But
it took about an hour, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour to get that tarp set up. And it ended up just dripping anyway, right where we had to cook and stand. But it was fun. It was funny. We were laughing the whole time. And we were grateful to be there. It was never like, you know, we were definitely frustrated, but it was never like anger, you know.
It never.
Fun.
You have to laugh.
And we just laugh.
Can't do anything about it. So you just have to laugh.
So
we had uncomfortable sleep in the car.
Damp.
Uncomfortable.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
that's the worst, having to go to sleep damp.
So we had to sit, like, Juliet was like, so we had to move, like, all of our stuff to the front seats of the car while still doing it all in the car because it was raining and bucketing, and unfold this, like, swag mattress that I had. Anyways, just didn't work.
It was a fun experience. It was fun to go game. But yeah, we ended up just like, it was not a bad sleep. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but we slept. I know I slept. I think you slept.
A little bit.
And and then the next morning we had to figure out, because at this point we had only just parked the car. We hadn't even like gone into the actual gathering at all. And so
you're probably scared after seeing that guy.
Well,
you're like, oh, don't know.
What?
So we basically just had two choices. We could either go on foot, walk the rest of the way into the gathering, and kind of scour the road as well to see if Jess would be able to drive the road, which was what we did because that's a smart idea. Because the other option would just be to drive without knowing what we were getting into.
Get back up.
Without knowing, them being stuck an hour and a half away from cell service, let alone a town. And we ended up just going on foot, and I'm so glad we did. It took like an hour, I would say an hour and 45 minutes to hike into the actual gathering from the car.
Yeah.
Because it was like we had to cross rivers, 3 rivers.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was like
proper rivers. They were like water crossings, like
one of them was, I would say one of them was a creek,
but like to get there they weren't. And then actually, there was a proper river.
So 2 of them were like you could, but also can I just add to that, if it kept raining the way that it did and we stayed, I reckon they would have turned into like you wouldn't be able to drive through. I don't think.
No.
Because it was still pouring. And it was going to be pouring the next few days. So we end up eventually, after like an hour and 45-minute hike, we got into the gathering. And there's like everyone saying, welcome home. And but that's before we even get into the site. And then we like walk into the entrance and there's like a sign for consent talking about consent before you hug, consent before you do anything.
Yeah.
And we're like,
So
what?
we stood out like a sore thumb because
Yeah.
keeping in mind some people were naked.
Yeah.
And then so they are like hardcore hippies, like real and I was wearing these like bright blue bike shorts. Like I did not fit in
No.
whatsoever.
I was wearing a t-shirt and like I still look like a hippie and I also didn't fit in.
No. And they could tell because they were like, "Is this your first rainbow gathering?"
And we were like, yeah. And so we walk in and we're asking around for like where the river is. And the response to us asking where the river is, yes, so the river's down there, but just watch out because yesterday a woman almost drowned.
Oh, because there was rapids further down.
There was rapids.
Down and then like a calmer river up the top. And yeah, someone
And so we were like, thank you.
Letting us know.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know. And then we get to the river and we're like getting ready to swim and I'm taking a photo because the view is spectacular.
Beautiful.
And then I have this dude come up to me. No, he's swimming in the river and he's yelling at me across the river. He's like swimming almost on the other side and he's like, "Can you please not have your phone out?" And I was like, I'm just taking a photo.
He's the mayor of the river.
Yeah. And the point of the rainbow gatherings is there's no rules, and that you just are sort of living peacefully in this nature, and it's sort of not like you're just sort of living off the grid almost, but very minimal and like very everyone like in this little community. And so the point is that there's technically not supposed to be like anyone who's like the boss or in charge. Like obviously naturally you have to have there'll be some sort of leader to do anything.
Yeah.
But because they set up everything gets hiked in and they set up like their all these little areas and stuff for the kitchen and the toilets and whatnot, but there's technically no one supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And Jess, did you find out when you were there if these people traveled, they like permanently there, or how does it work?
It's not that they're so I don't think any of them really traveled together. They're all just separate people that hear about this. They all like someone, I don't know who, organizes this rainbow gathering, and it was the first one in the Northern Rivers for like 20 years or 10 years. So that's why it was so small, I think, too. There's a big one in Tasmania that's more well known and a lot of people go to, and I think that would be a really interesting one to go to, and I think would be a bit more of a good environment because the one that we went to, there was like some families and then there was just those just lone, nomadic kind of people that probably like you never know, like some of them could just be homeless and like come here and stay, or there was just lots of situations, and we later found out that was like one person that had come from jail.
Yeah.
And he
he
Did you meet him?
No, well, we don't know. He could have been someone we met, but I heard this from other friends that came. I think they came a week after we did. And yeah, it turns out that one of the dudes came from jail after, like, I'll just say SA.
Oh, right.
Charges. And he was there. And then there was also this whole other incident where this woman got stuck in the rapids. I think this was a different woman than what the guy told us about. But this woman got stuck in the rapids and emergency services were called.
Oh,
and the way that emergency services were called was by hippies hiking up a mountain for 3 hours just to get cell service to call 000. And then while the helicopter was flying over, there was like a monkey workshop, and then all these people were like dancing around like monkeys while there's this woman in the river with like a broken leg or something.
She was in the river for 3
I
hours
don't
with a
I
broken
I
leg.
don't
It was
know. She might have been pulled to shore, but
but she had a broken leg or something where she needed to go to hospital.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. It's not just like, oh, it's a bunch of hippies and
No, it was an experience.
there's real.
And I think it would have been a really lovely experience. But we, again, like we just went there and we did not feel a good vibration from it. We felt pretty uncomfortable. Later,
The
we found
consent
out
sign kind of consent sign.
some friends of mine that they went and they had a 1-year-old daughter and they're traveling around Australia and they have all this set up in their car. And they wanted to bring their car on to the land. And no one owns this land, I think, or someone does and they got permission to be on it.
I think it's public land, actually.
Yeah, so you can't, no one's supposed to tell you what you can and can't do. Obviously, you're not trying, like, unless you're being a horrible person and trying to hurt someone. So they wanted to bring their car on, and because they have their fridge, there is no first aid kit. They
have a 1-year-old child as well.
No one has cell service. It's an hour and a half hike just to get to a car, then an hour and a half drive to get to cell service. So they wanted to bring their car on because fair enough, they have a 1-year-old child. And that was a really big issue. That was just a really big issue. That was lots of people would come up to them and say, you need to get your car off. You can't have your car here. And it was just a very different vibe. And I'm glad we didn't stay because it's just not something that two young women by ourselves, I just felt we would have just not felt comfortable at all.
No, definitely not.
Mm.
And it was fun though. It was
fun. And then we packed straight back out.
Yeah. We got there and we were there for about an hour. That's being generous.
Literally just being by ourselves at the river having a swim.
Yeah. And then we just dipped straight out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun.
It
was fun. Yeah, but that was like I think that really cemented trust between us.
Yeah.
That if you got yourselves in a situation that you were both kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, there's
like,
nothing.
We need to leave now.
There's nothing like being in a random hippie weird community in the middle of nowhere, an hour and a half away from cell service alone. Actually, we were 3 hours away from cell service with an hour and 30 minutes hike and then an hour and 30-minute drive. We were 3 hours away from cell service. You know, there's nothing like that builds trust in two people.
No. And it's nice that we both just looked at each other. We're like, yeah, no. We're not staying here.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a fun experience.
That was a lovely experience.
Yeah.
Well, I think, yes, you're right. It was a wonderful experience because the two of you were brought closer from it.
And I think from this experience, well, we're going to go traveling together next year, and I think this experience really allowed us to have some idea of how we would be together because when you're traveling, like, you know, that's only the start of what you would face, you know. There's so much that can happen. So I really know that from this experience we would be fine with each other traveling across wherever we are. And yeah, I'm excited to travel with you. It's going to be fun. Yeah.
You're going to find out so much about yourselves in the experience because you're just like what you described, that story you just described, that stuff is going to be presented to you, you know, probably monthly, if not weekly.
Yeah.
You know, and the good thing about that is through those experiences, you learn your limits with each other. You learn your limits with yourself.
Yeah.
You start to really learn what's okay and what's not, how you feel about the world, how you feel about yourself in the world. you know, how you feel about yourself in a friendship, how
Mhm.
you feel about yourself as a woman,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all of those things will start, but I mean on steroids. Like you've got those experiences up until now in a country where you understand the language, you understand the rules, you've lived here your whole life,
Yeah.
you know, but when you travel extensively and you are going to different places consecutively,
It's the ultimate test, isn't
yeah,
it?
it really will broaden you as your, you know, your character and you as a person. Yeah.
Wow. Well, get
Looking
ready.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've surpassed our time limit,
Oh, we have
actually.
two. Far out. That
Yeah.
went so quick.
Well, I think that's a good way to end it with
Yes.
wise words from
From the
from
mother figure
um
that was going to do the booty dance.
oh God. Stop. Let it go.
No.
Oh no.
No.
Anyways, yes. Thank you for coming on, Jess. It was
Thank
so lovely to have you. And I
Will you come
really
back, Jess? Will you come back?
I think I may. Yeah.
Awesome.
it was so lovely hearing your perspective, and we've never
Yes.
had anyone like you on the show before where, you know, with your experiences and everything, you have
Yeah.
so much to share, and we're really grateful because you hold such a neutral position, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
something
beautiful.
like really important, and I think we all need a little bit of that in our lives.
Mm.
So thank you
You're the
for
voice of reason.
yeah. So thank you everyone as well for watching, and we'll
Yes.
see you next week, possibly with a new name.
Yes.
Next week we might have a new name for the show because yeah,
We're
so
planning our
I-
launch.
yeah, so thank you. See you next week.
Mwah.
Goodbye everyone.
Bye.